My middle child involved in a serious car accident that nearly killed her, having to step in and be a full-time parent to her 3 and 5-year-old. All the while I was starting a new business. These are my 5 tips for self-care on a budget with limited time. My daughter had hit a 16-wheeler truck at 160 kilometers an hour. I couldn't even speak the terror. It was all I could do in those moments was to get dressed and get to her, get to the hospital. And let me tell you guys, those weeks that ensued were just a blur. You know, I was grateful because I had her children with me the night of that accident. And we were doing a nanny over. We were spending time where it was just me and them. And it was actually the first one we'd had in a very long time. So I know the universe was smiling on us. So as usual, like the miracle my daughter is, let me tell you, she is a miracle walking. She recovered and she's flourishing today, but it left us with some repercussions. She has a traumatic brain injury, which is frontal lobe. And I may do a video about that, dealing with somebody who's gone through that kind of an experience and what that's like dealing with somebody who has a brain injury, but that's for another YouTube video. Now this slammed me, literally slammed me, just like that car did her, into a new space in my life. I was expecting to be on a Freedom 46 plan, everybody. I had my children at a young age, and my solace was that at 46 I was going to be free because my youngest would have been 18, and it was call me Carrie and don't let the popo catch you because I'm out. But life had a different plan. I was given this nanny co-parent plan. It's been an interesting journey because it's really caused me to have to figure out a whole new way of being and a new way to find time for myself, and this idea of self-care, because that was the only way that I was going to be able to live and not fall into a depression. So these are some of my 5 tips that I use to self-care on a budget, because at 3 years ago, money was tight and I definitely didn't have a lot of time. For me, at the end of every day, especially in those early days, my nerves were just shot. My brain felt so overloaded, and I often just felt like I was just worn out running behind a 3 and a 5-year-old. You know, I found real solace in simple things, like just lighting candles. I would turn off all my overhead lights, light up my special scented candles, put them at the sides of my bed, and I would just sit in quiet in the beautiful candlelight and just breathe. I loved the scented candles in particular because that was real aromatherapy, which also works in such a beautiful way to relieve stress. Scent can really be used to remove the stresses in our reality, and it helps to boost our immune systems, and it will help also reduce mental fatigue. Now, number 2 for me was Netflix and chill time. My survival meant carving out special times for me to just be able to go into another world. When the situation was too intense and it felt too difficult, the computer, the laptop, the TV, I would just take up whatever I could and go right into somebody else's world. It might have been just to listen to some comedian crack a crude joke. It might have been some fantasy world like Game of Thrones. I am so a Game of Throner. Winter has come. Yeah, I know. It's just my thing. What can I say? Anyways, it was always about my sanity. It was a minute of survival, just taking time to step into another world. I managed in those moments to live for another day. Number 3, soothing drinks. This is one of my favorite. There is nothing better for me than a cup of coffee with 18% cream. Yes, I go all the way fat. I love my morning coffee. And what I found was that love of coffee, I took it and I turned it into a nighttime routine as well. I used and moved in beautiful teas like ginger and honey. There's something really great to be said about holding a comfort mug and filling it with a warm and tantalizing tasting brew of something that you love. And I developed a real routine that was a beautiful space for me, where I used to invite one of the ladies that I met at the bus stop when we were dropping our kids off for school. She would come to the house with me in the mornings, and we would go over this morning cup of coffee, and it provided a place for both of us to just have a minute before we went on to start the biggest parts of our day. Facial love. 5 minutes before I got into the shower, whether it was day or nighttime. I found this to be such a simple solution, guys. Now, as I told you, money was tight, right? And now, I will indulge on some like facial scrubs and stuff. But at this time and at that time, I still use this as my go-to time. I use Epsom salts with just a drop of whatever essential oil. And I use that on my face. It was an amazing way for me just to spend that extra 5 minutes on my own love and my own self-care. And those moments were important to me too. Don't doubt that those moments aren't important. Because if you are giving all the time and you take no time to put back in for self, you won't have enough to give out to those who need you and who are counting on you. What do you do to self-care for your mental health? Comment below. If you're new to this channel, please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment, because I love to hear from you. Carrie cares. Till next time.